So today we're going to show you how to make our cream cheese ice cream as well as our honey pecan praline ice cream. Right now we've actually got our cream cheese chopped up, got our base out, got our flavoring, and right now she's actually cooking praline pecans in here in the warmer. So we're going to take you in there and show you exactly what she's doing with that. Put a stain there. Spread it out like a cake.
Yep.
You gotta do how many more of these? 3 more?
One more.
And once that dries, you're gonna break it up, chop it up, and that's gonna go on the ice.
Brown sugar.
Just mixing in your brown sugar, getting it a good consistency, and then you're gonna add your pecans. Pecans turn in there, and then you're just gonna let it sit till it's bubbling, right?
Right, about 2 minutes.
About 2 minutes. And after that gets done, that's when we're gonna transition it over back onto this pan, spread it out, and then it's gonna go in the oven for about 5 minutes, just to get that consistency that we need so we can crumble it up. Add a little bit of vanilla flavoring. I guess a lot bit up there.
2 teaspoons.
2 teaspoons of vanilla flavoring.
And then 4 teaspoons of heavy whipping cream.
A little bit more, and then you're gonna stir it up.
Probably a minute.
Minute more, and stir it up. Put it on the other pan, and then it'll be finished with that one batch. So this is all gonna make. Once she adds that to this pan, we're gonna let it bake in the oven, and then that's gonna make at least for 1 batch of ice cream. Put in the oven.
300, 5 minutes.
300 for 5 minutes. When that gets done, we're gonna bring it out, and then we're gonna crush it up so we can put it in our container. Watch it like burn my camera up. You got it?
Got it.
Alright, gonna bring that out, let it cool. A whole sheet pan of sugary goodness. Okay, so while the pralines are cooling, I gotta run to the store and actually get a pipe part. So as you know, here in Alabama, we've been dealing like freezing cold weather. So of course, we had pipes burst. So I guess that's just part of being like a small business owner, like all of us here. It's like you start something, have to do something else. So we're basically like squirrels, just running around all over the place. So I gotta go get a part, I'm gonna fix a pipe, come back, and then we're gonna get back to right back to doing our ice cream. Okay, we went and got our pieces to fix our pipes that busted. Now we're gonna go in here, we're gonna crush up our pecan pralines, and then once we do that, we'll come in here and then we can start actually making the ice cream now that everything's back the way it's supposed to be. All right, now we got this done. Scrape it up. That way we can actually get it off of this container and put it in our bucket. Go in for our ice cream. It's actually very satisfying. So usually this whole pan here is just gonna make 1 batch of honey pecan praline. So in the summertime when we're doing ice cream, I mean, we're making between 8 to 12 batches every single day. So the only reason that we don't make any more than 12 is because our hardening cabinet can only take up so much space, and 12 is usually the max. And ice cream has to sit in there for 24 hours because it's usually like negative 35, 38 degrees in there. So that's actually gonna get it the consistency that you need. Because if you just put the ice cream in like a general freezer after it's been made, it's not gonna settle right. So like ingredients like this, that's heavy, if you just put it in a generic freezer, it's just gonna sink straight to the bottom. So that flash freezer is just gonna almost put it in the shop to where it actually kind of holds the form that it's supposed to, and ingredient stays where it needs to be and doesn't go to the pan. Okay, now that we have all our ingredients together, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put all of our parts together. That way we can actually get the machine up and running. So first off, we have to take the bolts off the side. Then in here, this has got our shaft and our drum. So we're gonna have to get our shaft together. We're gonna have to lube it up. And then we're gonna get some sanitized water that we can run through this thing and get it clean before we actually start making our ice. First thing we gotta actually do is put our rings here on our shaft. So what we're gonna do is get this part on. We've actually got some tools here to help get everything around here, because you got two sections. One goes on the very bottom in here, another ring. And this is the one that is always a pain to get on. I'm trying to do it without having to actually get my tool for it. There we go. So this is just helping with the seal and everything to help keep the ice cream from actually coming out, essentially, and actually going in the back part of the machine right there, which is the one thing that you do not want to happen. So where it stays in the drum right there, if you start adding too much of it in there and it starts actually going out the back, it's going to leak into your machine, it's going to mess everything up, and it's going to be a major problem. So now we're having to put this fitting right here in the back. So it's actually, this part here has to line up in the very back end in here. So I had to take my sleeves off. So whenever you're handling anything like this, you got to take your sleeves, because you don't want any of that actually getting in the machine itself. Even though we are going to sanitize it, you still want to do that as far as health code wise. So we're just going to feel it around in there, and then we're actually just going to move it. It's locked. So we're good on that end. Now we're actually going to put the drum. So the next thing we do is we're going to put these sections on. So I basically just call them the beaters, because essentially that's, to me, that's what they're doing anyways. It's just churning up all of the ice cream and it's scraping it off the side as it gets cooled on there. So let me just shift you around here so you can see which section's going on. So you're going to insert it on this side, and then over here you've got an empty slot that we're actually going to have to put a bolt in to fasten it to keep it from moving around. That in. Got these little pins. It's going to hold that in place. Okay. Then we're going to rotate it in the next section. And we're just going to do the same thing over here. Bring it in, fasten. Pin here, and now we're actually going to take it and put it inside of the drum itself in there. That way we can actually get started with all the ice. So I had to move the camera around so I can actually pick this thing up to put it in here to kind of show you exactly how it's going to go, because this thing is not light whatsoever. The main thing is just get that first inserted. Slide it. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pick it up in that back end to actually get the shaft lined up. Oh! So we got the drum in there now. So we got the drum in there now. Make sure it's locked. Got this compartment that we're going to put on this side of the door. Make sure it's locked in good. Then we're just going to shut the door. Now this is the fun part. Sounds worse than what it is. Okay. I'm going to take these gloves off. And get these bolts on here. Helps if you have steady hands, which I do now. Don't want to get them too tight all the way around first time, because you got to go all the way around the whole thing. So get them somewhat locking. Alright, so we got everything secured here. Make sure we got everything good and locked tight. So before we actually turn the dasher, and then you have the refrigeration on, we've got our sanitized water that we're going to pour in to help clean everything out. Then once we dump it out, then we're actually going to put our base in and get it. Oh. Now I got our sanitizer water pour it in, and get it nice and clean. Again, during this time of the year, we're not making it as frequently. So you just want to make sure that everything in here is cleaned out. Got that. Doors are locked good. Now it's time to get the dasher. So by dasher, that's just going to be this little switch right here. So that's basically turning everything on to spin and cycle through here. We're not going to turn the refrigerator on because, again, it's just for sanitized water. As you can see, it's just sitting there turning everything up, cycling out. We're actually making ice cream. We're going to put a cover on to make sure it's not making a huge overloading mess. Okay, we've been letting this run for a few minutes. Now we're going to shut it off. It slows down. Just going to pull our valve here. Slow. Okay, so we did the sanitizer water. We're actually going to run a little bit of just plain hot water just to help kind of get that sanitizer water out. Alright, so for the cream cheese ice cream, we're going to be doing our vanilla base, and then we're going to do our Eagle brand. Then we're gonna do our flavoring. So this is our just vanilla flavoring. We're doing some lime juice and everything to help it give it a little bit of different flavor. Then we'll be adding some sugar to it as well to help give it a little bit of sweetness. All right, so now we got our vanilla base here. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna grab this end, help keep it from going all over the place. Pop it open. And this is the main thing, making sure that we do not make a mess while we're pouring it in. So each batch gets 2 bags. Just gonna get it poured in there nice. So we use a 10%. I know it varies because some people use like a 10, 12, 14. It's really just depending on like what amount of butter fat you're wanting, how creamy you're wanting. And a lot of times we do it mainly because it's like if you get it too high, it gets too sweet. And like with ours, because we make it homemade and we've got like our peaches and everything that we add into it, like we want the natural flavors to come out as opposed to all the other flavors in it. Okay, so next thing we're gonna add is Eagle brand milk. So each batch gets about half a bag, and it's really just depending on if you're doing bags or you're doing cans. So we're gonna be doing the bags for this. And it's really just kind of eyeballing it as you go. Let's see a little bit more. That should be pretty good. All right, and then we're gonna pour the rest of this out in a 1.5 gallon bucket. That way we'll have it ready for the next batch. So then we're gonna add our sugar. So kind of like when you're doing your own little fruit dips and stuff like that, you gotta have a little bit in there. Otherwise it's just gonna taste like pure cream cheese. And I know a lot of people love just pure cream cheese. As for me, I gotta have a little bit of sweetness with it. And this is just pure cane sugar that we're adding to it. And this is really the only ice cream that we really have to add sugar to. Everything else usually has its own natural sugars or other ingredients in there that you really have to worry about with it. All right, next thing we're gonna add is some of our vanilla flavoring and some other flavoring, and then we're gonna have some lime juice mixed in here. So this is gonna give it the flavor that it really needs to help give it that unique taste that everybody seems to love. So we're just gonna pour it down in here. So whenever you're pouring different ingredients, so like for this, you don't have that many ingredients that you're actually adding to it. So I'm just gonna tilt you up here. So like when we do get to the praline pecan, because you're dumping it in, you're gonna have to make sure like around the excess sides and everything, you're actually getting it in the hopper itself. So like when we even do our peanut butter crunch and we have to melt our peanut butter and things down, like you have to make sure you get as much of the ingredients in the hopper as you can. Otherwise it's just not gonna taste the same and taste the way it really needs to taste. So now we put our flavoring in, we're gonna get our cream cheese hunks, put it in there, and then we should be able to start getting everything made, and then we kind of show you how everything goes as it comes out. All right, so it's kind of vibrating a little bit. We're gonna kind of show you how it's turning. So we turn our dasher on, turn our refrigeration on. So before we put the cream cheese in, we're gonna let it kind of cool down a little bit, because otherwise if you just dump the cream cheese in there beforehand, it's gonna kind of clump up. It's not gonna it's been 5 minutes, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our cream cheese that we've cut up, and we're going to add it into this section. So what you're going to do is just kind of slowly feed it in at a time. That way it gets kind of mixed in nice and good there. So you can see what I was talking about stuff kind of churning in there, getting stuck a little bit. So at least with the cream cheese, I mean, it's a block of it, so it's not that bad. It's actually going to go down in there pretty easily compared to everything else. So once we get all this added, we're going to let this kind of churn up for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to dump it out, and we'll show you where it goes from there. Alright, so our timer just went off. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off our refrigeration. Turn off our dasher. Alright, so you can see the consistency that we have in there. We have our bucket here. And we're just going to slowly pour it out. And every batch that you make is different with each kind, so we usually try to get it up to the rim. Alright, so now that we've got our ice cream buckets, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our hardening cabinet. So right now it's negative 22. Sometimes it gets colder than that in the 30s. It's just really dependent on what the machine decides to do that day. Plus it's freezing outside, so I think a lot of times that has something to do with it as well. So now we're going to get this thing loaded up. Get these doors open. Putting these buckets in, you have to stack them a certain way to get usually about 44 buckets go in the freezer total. So like in the summertime when we're making 12 batches a day, this thing will be slammed full until the next day. So we got these in here, we're going to shut the door, and we're going to get started on the next variety. So we did cream cheese ice cream. Earlier we showed you about us making our pralines and everything that we're going to add to this. So the next one that we're going to be making is the honey pecan praline. So we're going to kind of go through the same steps again, but we're going to show you everything that goes into making this ice cream. Get our second bag in within here. Half a bag of Eagle brand condensed milk. Again, we're kind of just gauging it on feel here. Maybe a little bit more. Alright. And I'll take this and put it in our bag over here. A little bit of flavoring. Next, we're going to add our honey. So we're only going to do half of a bottle in here. Try to get it here so you can actually see how it's going in there. Again, you're just feeding it in a little bit at a time. Were to dump it in all at just one time, it's not going to churn up the way it does. So you have to just feed it in as it goes. Plus, you're already adding honey, which is a sticky substance. And you're adding all of these pralines in here, which is another sticky substance. So even the texture, like when we do make this ice cream and when we're scooping it, like you can tell the difference in it compared to all the other ones. So ever making ice cream on a daily basis, depending on what we're having to do each and every day, so we try to stagger it. So we use, like if we're doing vanilla flavors and our other flavors, we always try to reserve anything that's got nuts in it for the very end of the batch. That way there's less cross-contamination. So it'd be like vanilla, which is your basic, and then you would go to say like strawberry or banana or something like that and work your way down. Or even with strawberries, you might have to put it at the tail end, depending which we do clean and sanitize in between batches, but whenever you're dealing with things like that where everybody could get sick and could deal with an allergic reaction, we do try to reserve that for the very end of the batch so it doesn't affect everything else as it goes. Alright, so now this batch is finished and we're going to slowly open the door up just a tad. See how it's churned up in there and kind of broke up pretty good. Now again, this one's going to settle a little bit differently because it does have the honey and the pecan pralines in here, so it's going to be a little bit stickier, tackier, I guess I should say. But basically that's it. That's how this variety is made.